So welcome to Seek the Magic, where we are on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. I'm your host, Erin, and today we're joined by Andrea, a transformational coach who's on a mission to help us awaken to our true potential. She has a background in law, but a passion for energy healing, and I'm so excited to have her on and speak with her today. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to come in here and share wisdom and have a fun conversation about wherever it is that this conversation wants to take us.
Lovely. So can you start by sharing your story about how you went from being a lawyer to an energy healer and what the catalyst was for this transition?
Yeah, let's do this. Well, just to provide some background and context. So I grew up in this strict Asian family where you're either a professional or nothing at all. And so that was what I was groomed to become, right? A professional. It didn't seem like there were other feasible or acceptable options. I was so blinkered, I didn't know anything about personal development, as in the first time I heard of the term mindset was end of 2020. And what I understood to be spirituality involves going to church and praying to a white man in the sky and seeing other Christians being morally bankrupt outside of church. So in essence, I knew nothing about spirituality. So the catalyst for this transition was actually the pandemic. I had quit law once before in 2017. And when the pandemic hit, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and quit law again because now I'm really, truly miserable. My friends were taken away from me. I couldn't go to parties, no social life, all the fun things. So at that time, I just didn't really know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I supposedly had everything the world had told me was going to bring me happiness, glamorous job, white picket fence life, everything else. And here I was stuck, miserable, and feeling more alone than I have ever felt whilst being in relationship. And it was actually my best friend at the time who strongly pushed me towards working with a coach that he had been working with. And to drive home how much I knew nothing about personal development. I thought coaches were like sports coaches, soccer coaches, basketball coaches. And I didn't know that there were any other kind of coaches. And the coach who I worked with was actually an energy healer. I didn't know that was what she was at the time, but she unblocked me in a massive way. And that propelled me to have the courage to leave law. And after that, it was a matter of just, following my joy and curiosity. And that led me down bit by bit towards the path of energy healing in 2.5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So what was the first thing you noticed when the coach helped you with energy healing? What was that like?
Well, she took me through, she's a spiral practitioner, and she took me through I think a 10-week process of unblocking all of my chakras in her own way. And the first 4 weeks leading from root until heart, it was quite difficult. But by the time we arrived at heart, it was a lot lighter at that point. I felt like a lot of energy had shifted. And I couldn't explain it at the time because I didn't know what a healer was, and I don't know what energy work is. And it was also the first time I learned the concept of limiting beliefs. I learned what shadow work was. And so it was just really, really painful, the whole process. But by the time we got to the heart chakra, it was a lot lighter. It just felt like a weight had lifted, and a weight that I did not know that I had been carrying, because we get accustomed to a certain state of being from the time we were young up until now. And so suddenly to have that state of being just switched, it was quite phenomenal, actually. So my first foray into personal development was actually energy work. I didn't even know what that is.
Wow, that's amazing. And what was your experience like as a lawyer, and what did you learn from that journey that sort of helped you in your current work?
That journey as a lawyer was an interesting one. I think I experienced everything on the spectrum from being incredibly fulfilled, even if it was just momentarily, to being incredibly burnt out. So the first 3 years, I worked as a family lawyer, so dealing with divorces, child custody battles, domestic violence, child protection matters. So very, very heavy stuff, really emotionally heavy
Very.
stuff. Yeah. And at that time, in that year, I was also working with just the worst law firm ever. Like the most unsupportive boss ever, terrible pay, my goodness. And so after that, I took a sabbatical and I was hoping to find career inspiration. But obviously, I didn't get that. So 3 years later, I switched to Wilson Estates. This time, the work was more dry. But it was also more calm. I had great colleagues, great superiors. I had perfect client to paperwork ratio, and everything was perfect. There was no reason for me to feel miserable or feel like I need to move on. And yet, it just wasn't it. And so one thing that I can say about being a lawyer, working in those areas of law and in the fields that I did, is that you had to learn how to be able to wear multiple hats at one time. So sometimes you put on the therapist hat and you're empathetic and compassionate and you're a good listener. And then you put on a lawyer's hat so you can analyze your client's cases, so you can identify the root cause of problems and decide how you want to present your client's case in the best light. And sometimes you put on the hat of a friend so you can, they're going through a difficult court case, you want to bring a smile to your friend in situations like that. So wearing all those hats and cultivating all the skills that I had outlined really helped me do my current work as a coach and energy healer quite easily, because I know how to listen. I know how to draw out the main points of what kind of beliefs or uncomfortable situations or emotions that my clients are actually experiencing. And because a lot of that comes so naturally to me now, actually, that I can't even teach it. It's almost like muscle memory. So yeah, those are the skills that I learned that has been so important for my current work.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that is that, even in work that you knew wasn't quite a fit, you were thinking about what you loved and what you didn't like about it. And then that kind of that led you down the path that you were in. So how did you, when you started down this journey with energy after you had the coach, what steps did you start to take to make that change?
Well, when I finished off working with this coach, I didn't know that what I wanted to be was a transformational coach. That was not the first thing that came to mind. And at that time, even though I've heard of the term healer, I don't actually know what that is. And so it was like, I just didn't know what that was. And I didn't feel the draw to go look into it either. At the time, the coach asked me to write up a list of 100 things that I would do for free forever. And the top 3 was I was going to be prancing around in bikinis and beautiful beaches, spreading positive messages. And so I thought, okay, let's just start an Instagram account. So I was a social media influencer for 3 months. And then I was a social media manager for 3 months, because 2 people came to me and said, hey, I'll pay you to help us grow our account. What did I know about being a social media manager? Nothing. I know how to grow my account. And then I came across a digital nomad coach, and I wanted to do what she was doing. But what I realized was it was hard for me to teach someone how to build their own business to become a digital nomad when I was still in the process of building my own business. And in a time where none of us could fly anywhere. So how could we be digital nomads?
Right.
Other than just be at home working. Right? And shortly after that, I pivoted to becoming a mindset coach because I got offered a job on LinkedIn out of nowhere. And so it's just been following my joy and curiosity and allowing myself to pivot as and when I needed to, with having zero attachment to the outcome. And bit by bit, next thing you know, I was in a situation where I was feeling quite stuck. I wanted to look for my star family, and we're talking about ET stuff at that point. And the trance channeler that I hired happened to do Theta healing. And what I experienced with Theta healing was so phenomenal that I decided to sign up for all the courses and become a Theta healer myself. And after that, I learned another modality, the one that I'm still learning now. And that's how I came into energy healing. It was just bit by bit, allowing my joy to lead me to the next thing until finally here I am.
That is beautiful. Yeah. Explain a little bit about Theta healing. I'm not as familiar with that.
So theta healing is basically going into a theta state and then accessing source energy and utilizing that source energy to shift someone's limiting beliefs. So for example, you could come to me and tell me that, oh, I believe that I have this limiting belief that I am not good enough. And I think all of us have that belief at some level. Right. And even if we clear the first level, we can go down to deeper levels depending on the situation. So what I do is I go into a theta state with you, and then I will request source energy to change that belief, to remove that program of I am not enough on all four levels, on a physical level, emotional level, down to your cellular level, down to a soul level. And I can request that a new program be installed, which is that I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I can also request with source energy to say, like, can I train your body? And obviously, everything is done with your consent. Can I teach your body so that it knows what it feels like to feel,
Right.
to feel that it is good enough and that it is safe to feel good enough? And then I just download all of that into your whole body.
Yeah.
And then after that, we do like a muscle test to make sure that your body has actually taken on the healing. And then it's just like that.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And I feel like it's so amazing because, thinking about these different energy levels and states, that even just learning about that is so eye-opening and freeing for people. So I know you talked about theta. Do you mind just outlining the different states that you're in? Like, are we always in theta, or how does one get in theta?
Well, theta is just basically like a meditative, relaxed state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly the full details. I think beta is like where we are just awake right now.
Right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then was it like YAM? I think it was an alpha state that we're asleep. I'm not going to lie. I did remember this when I was learning theta healing.
Yeah.
But the theta state is the one step right before you're like full, almost
asleep.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when you're in that hypnotic state, that's the time where your subconscious takes on, it's the most impressionable. It takes on beliefs and takes on suggestions most easily. And from that point onwards, it's easier to download it. Yes.
Yeah. And that's so empowering because it's like, we don't exist just in this one, way we're talking, but, you can actually get in a more relaxed state, and that can change your life and how you navigate through things.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the times when it comes to identifying the deep beliefs. For example, if I were to have a conversation with you right now about where certain beliefs came from or what you believe, that we will come to a limit where your conscious mind can only give me an answer up to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we go together into that theta state, and then I'm speaking to your subconscious mind, the answers that come up are just a lot deeper. The ones that are, supposedly unconscious. And that is when we know that we have reached the most bottom belief that we can address. And just like a house of cards, if you take out the card at the very bottom, then everything else just collapses, right? So if we take out the bottom belief, then everything that is built from that bottommost unconscious belief just collapses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so quick. And it's like, you can go through 5 years worth of therapy in a few sessions of theta healing. It's pretty phenomenal.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing because when you're talking in traditional therapy, you're mainly reviewing what's going on in your mind. But then when you get into a more relaxed state, you uncover other parts of you that, your mind's not necessarily concentrating on, right?
Yes, absolutely. And look, I'm a big advocate of therapy because therapy helps your brain understand. When it comes to energy work, it's like we work on the energetic body, we work on the emotional body, we work on the etheric body, but then we live in this 3D world,
right?
And our human brains are always the latest to get the information. So so combining therapy together with like energy healing, it allows, I think, a person to be able to understand what's going on and also work together with the body to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it might be a bit of a jumble and people might be wondering like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling so good. At the same time, I'm not used to it. What on earth is going on? And it's like intellectualizing and they're analyzing deep into it and go into another spiral.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So having both therapy, the talk therapy and like the energy healing working in tandem, sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. How does one sort of navigate and try to get into a theta state and then maybe explore? Do you have any thoughts about that?
When you mean explore, would you mind elaborating a bit on that?
Like, I guess so. If one is so, usually we're talking now. We're in beta, and then we get into theta. How do you help someone explore once they get there, or is it you basically navigating through their energetics, or how does that work?
So I guide them through it.
You
so
guide them.
basically, it's kind of
Okay.
like, when you listen to like a guided meditation.
Yeah, so they
But this one
relax.
is like a very, very short 5 minute one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Got it. And what other parts of energetics do you help people through?
I would say that it's mainly just beliefs, and also another one that I've been doing recently. This is the most like deep one. It's basically taking someone into their inner heart space.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously before we get into that meditative point, I would be having this conversation with them about like, okay, what exactly it is that you want to work on?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think these beliefs are held? Is it in this life or is this in a past life? Stuff like that. And so then I will go into the energetic body and then see which chakra it is that these issues are located in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will go to each of those chakras and clear it, not just in this lifetime, but also in another lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a number of tools that you can use. Like I utilize rays, I utilize theta healing in that space. Sometimes I use a healing bed. Sometimes I put them in like a healing pool. Sometimes, and all of this, I do this with the guidance of their higher selves within that meditative state. And so every session is quite open-ended.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like I can really plan, because there have been many occasions where I plan something, but then the client might come to me and tell me that, oh, wait, hang on, this particular thing happened. Can we work with that instead?
Mm-hmm.
Because it has to be relatable to the client as well.
Right.
And then based on that, then I get to chop and change and see what is required for the client at that particular time. Is this what the client needs at this particular time? And take it from there.
Yeah, that's lovely. And can you share some examples of how energy healing has helped your clients? Just a few different revelatory situations.
Okay. Well, for example, I had a client this afternoon. So he has been doing like earth work. He's very connected to Gaia and stuff like that. He has been wanting to travel for so many years, a few decades now, but he just never got around to it. So he's finally decided, you know what, I'm going to come to Australia in December. He's looking to fly from Denmark. And I said like, okay, so what do you want to work on? He said like, let's work on like money issues and stuff like that. And so as we were taking him through it, going through the questions and asking the relevant questions, apparently he had this belief that having money was bad. Only evil people had money. Mm-hmm. And then we later found out that his mom was the one that's been telling him like, you don't need to have money. Only evil people have money, or money is the root of all evil. And subsequently, he told me that he had this past, he suddenly remembered that there was this past life where his head was chopped off.
Oh my goodness.
Because apparently he was this really, really rich merchant taking money from all the poorer people. And so this was in a past life.
Yeah.
And so we went in there and cleared everything, cleared those beliefs from the root chakra, cleared it from solar plexus as well. And right after that, I said like, how do you feel? He was like, I thought that I felt okay when I came into the session, but now I feel amazing. I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like I want to charge the prices that I want to charge. I feel like I want to put out all my services out there. And you know what? I am not going to accept less than what I charge. If they can't afford it, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's probably we're just not a match at the moment, but I want to charge what I charge because I believe that what I have is of high value. And so he went and he just put up all of his services all the things that previously he was afraid of because he felt like, oh, what if people don't, I can't afford it? What if people don't pay me? And then he just didn't care anymore.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. For navigating like past lives or concurrent lives, how do you approach that or explore the thought of a past life?
Well, that one, it depends on what stage of, I guess, consciousness, I guess, the client is. So for someone who maybe is very, very new to personal development, I wouldn't even bother going there with them. I would just go in myself and I would speak to the higher self and ask the relevant questions that I want. And then it's about trusting what it is that comes to mind. And I think maybe because I've done this quite a few times now, so I know exactly what it is that I can trust it, and when is it that maybe I'm required to discern the situation a little bit more. But if it's someone who has more experience, for example, this client that I had this afternoon, it was basically taking him into a theta state and asking him those questions while he is in that state. And whatever it is that comes up for him, I will trust it. And he will also know, because if something doesn't feel right, he will know. But if something feels right, it's a full body yes. You just know. Yeah. You feel it. You feel it in your body. It's something that can really only be experienced when you can bypass the brain.
So if somebody is listening and is like, do I have a past life? How do you think they could explore that?
Well, there are so many like past life regressionists actually higher. The one that I trust is QHHT. Was it like quantum healing hypnosis technique? It's that program or that modality created by Dolores Cannon. I think she's the ultimate past life regressionist, but she's already passed away. But obviously, there are many facilitators that have trained under her. So if anyone who wants to look into, their own past lives, that is one way to do it, is to get someone that you trust, someone who is very experienced in this, to take you through this. And eventually, the best ones would be if you could speak to your own guides. But if you get to that point, that level of consciousness where you are very, very connected to all that is, connected to source, connected to your own guides. And if you just want to set the intention to explore what past lives you have, then that is where you will be guided to.
Yeah. That sounds like the right path to go. And on this podcast, I've talked about, your inner voice, which I think is somewhat connected to higher self, thinking about that, which is, really taking a deep breath, quieting the crazy mind that is, turned on in the beta brain, and really just listening. And once you do that, you can kind of think, okay, what is true for me? And, if you are newer to thinking about past lives or things like that, something may not come up immediately, but just listening, which is helpful.
Yes. Like listening is really, really helpful. Listening, feeling, and discerning, right? Because when you're looking into things like that, you're really opening yourself up through anything, really.
Yeah.
And so I think like having that very, very high development of intuition and awareness, being really in tune with that, and also cultivating the ability to discern. I think those are the two most important things when it comes to doing this kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is really the magic in listening and connecting with your inner self, which my brain likes to listen to podcasts and everything all the time. Like my husband's like, please turn off everything that's like going on, but that's my mind is like, I need it. I need to listen and I need to learn, which is, as you said before, that's such an important part of it. You need both. You need to talk to the beta part of the brain that's busy, but then you also need to listen to that wisdom too. Yeah. Are there any specific areas of life where you think energy healing can be beneficial? It's like all the time, right? But are any turning points or moments that you want to bring up?
In terms of specific moments in my life and in terms of how that has helped.
Yeah. Or for others, just thinking when would this be useful?
I would think that when you are for me, it has been most useful when I have felt stuck in something. Like I can't move, but I also can't really identify where this emotional stuckness is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened to me just last Saturday. It was leading up to, was it just last Saturday? It was leading up to the 7-7 gateway. And the energies coming in were like insane. Like, I don't know how you navigated that. But I think the 7-7 gateway was on a Sunday. And on the Saturday, I was just feeling so emotional
Yeah.
over nothing, over absolutely nothing. I was thinking like, okay, like, am I upset about something? Am I sad about something? Am I angry about something? But just nothing, like nothing was going wrong with my life. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I happened to have a conversation with a friend, and she also does energy healing. And what she did for me was she went into my space, into my energetic field, looked into what was actually going on, and then, gave me a few messages of wisdom. It turns out, like, I had this deeper belief of not feeling good enough, and it was a pattern of behavior every time I experience a new reality. Whenever I move house, or whenever I new relationship, or new shift or something. So she took me through like an energy healing process using like the violet flame, using the silver ray of transcendence. And I just felt like when I was done, I felt like awake. I felt like I could breathe again. And I just thought, oh my God, I felt so energetic. I went to the gym and I ran for so long, and I hate running. I freaking hate running so much. I would rather do anything else than run. But I ran for ages. And it's just that feeling of lightness. I cannot stress enough how important it is that we allow ourselves to level up in our state of being. And that is through energy, or whether it's through shadow work, or just being aware of whatever shadows you have, as an example. Because, like, wouldn't it be so much more beneficial to make decisions, big or small, from a state of lightness and happiness,
Yes. Yes.
compared to anxiety and fear driven and trauma?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful point that, people, they're often caught, and it's like, okay, it's the knowledge that you don't have to be in this one space. You can reflect. And sometimes it's a combination of, you're looking inward, but then, as you said, you're also connecting with other people to help you find what that energy state is.
Yes, absolutely. And in that situation, in situations where you just don't know what it is, it's good to enlist, the help of your friends.
Yeah.
But if you can work on it yourself, like I cannot, there have been so many times where I would go in and look into what is the limiting belief that is holding me back, whether it's, oh, I don't deserve to be happy, or I feel like if I had wealth and was in a position of power, then I was going to be a terrible person, or that I would lose my humanity. So I would go in there and just work on it myself. And it's been so life changing, like shadow work amplified.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what's one important takeaway you'd like listeners to remember about your journey or the work you do?
Well, the work I do is a lot about healing and doing the inner work so that you can experience a life of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And joy is such a big part of my life. To me, joy is the way that our soul communicates with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the joy and passion of yours that you follow will draw you into a series of synchronistic events that will expand your ability to experience more excitement and joy until you reach a point where that very same joy is going to support you in your life if you're brave enough to take it that far.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to understand how things will happen or how things are connected to your joy or whatever it is. All you have to do is act on it at any given moment, knowing that it will. And the more you move towards it, the more you allow your joy to show you your shadows, the more you allow your joy to show you what limiting beliefs are there. And at this point, when you're in a state of joy, you have so much more capacity to deal with your shadows and unconscious beliefs and limiting beliefs, all the things that feel so yucky.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, when you allow yourself to do the inner work and the healing in the process of following your joy, like life is just going to organize itself for you.
That's beautiful.
in the most magical, effortless flow. And so all I want to say is that allow yourself to follow your joy and allow yourself to evolve through that process, along that process, along the journey. And through all of that, everything that you're looking for, everything that you didn't even know that you're looking for is going to land right on your lap.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for that wisdom. And if listeners want to learn more about your work and working with you, how can they connect with you?
Well, the best thing to do would be to connect with me. You can check out my website, www.andreafong.com. You can connect with me on Instagram. My username is The Andy Ventures, TheAndipentures. I have LinkedIn as well. There's also Facebook, but I can't remember the full URL right now. But I trust Erin.
I'll include it in the show notes. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the magic of energy healing and your journey and, bravery to navigate this journey. So thank you so much. And I hope everyone can seek the magic in their day-to-day.